Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, I'm bringing you guys a 10-team PPR mock draft from the 9th overall spot on fantasypros.com. Inside of this video, we are going to be talking about my overall strategy while drafting, kind of get into my brain while we're doing the draft. I'll talk about some other picks around me, and then at the end of the draft, I'll just talk about some picks that I found interesting during the draft that I thought might have needed some more screen time for you guys. So if you guys do end up enjoying this video, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below, because not only is it free, I put out content every single day surrounding around the NFL draft, and mostly fantasy football. Obviously, yesterday there was some huge news of mono man Sam Darnold getting traded to the Carolina Panthers, and I will be talking about that a little bit in today's video when it comes to discussing Carolina Panthers players. So without further ado, let's get into it. The roster positions for this draft are 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wideouts, a tight end, flex, kicker, defense, and 6 bench spots. I will be doing drafts all throughout the offseason. 8-team, 10-team, 12-team, 14-team, maybe even 16-team one. There will also probably be dynasty drafts on my channel, and I will also be drafting with you guys eventually, probably in the next couple of months. So if you guys do want in on that, make sure you hit that subscribe button. So let's get into it. Now, we are at pick number 9, which is where I genuinely love to draft. I say this because I really like to pick on this turn. I'm a very big proponent, big proponent, I think is how you would say that word, of going double running back in the first 2 rounds. Now, am I saying that you have to do that? No. You could win your fantasy football league drafting a kicker in the first round. Do I suggest to do that? No, but you can. But I feel like the running back position is so heavily valued early on in draft. If you're able to snag 2 guys that finish as running back ones in fantasy football, your team is just going to be completely beefy compared to the other teams. Now, I understand running backs get hurt more, so I want to go safer with wide receiver. Now, that's even more of a reason, in my opinion, to reach for running backs kind of earlier. Now, I'm not saying to reach here and pick a guy that should be going in the 3rd round, in the 1st round. It's all about drafting by value. So again, I like to go running back early, but say I didn't like the running backs here and I felt much better drafting a guy like DeAndre Hopkins or maybe a Stephon Diggs at this pick to Tyreek Hill, I would do that as well. So the draft began with Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, and Jonathan Taylor. So again, I said at the beginning of the video, we are going to talk about Sam Darnold moving to Carolina. What does this do to affect Christian McCaffrey, who was just taken off the board? Absolutely nothing. You could have me, Notorious Fantasy, Nick, stand back there, and I promise you, I would be able to dump the ball off to Christian McCaffrey. Now, I understand Christian McCaffrey makes those plays where he dodge, dip, dives, and ducks around the defenders, makes a miss, and then someone throws him the ball and he scores a touchdown. Obviously, I probably cannot do that, but you don't really need too much of a skilled quarterback to do it for CMC. He did it with Teddy Bridgewater, did it with Cam Newton, and he should be able to easily do it with mono man Sam in Carolina. It's also not very hard for Sam Darnold to hand the ball off to Christian McCaffrey either. Now, what does Sam Darnold affect Robbie Anderson? Now, Robbie Anderson and Sam Darnold were buddies from back in New York for the Jets, but him and Sam Darnold weren't necessarily, that wasn't where Robbie Anderson really strived. His biggest year was last year on Carolina, but I still think Sam Darnold's going to be able to get it done for Robbie Anderson. Same thing goes with DJ Moore. Now, do I feel like this is a huge step up? No. If this was Deshaun Watson, who, again, we have no idea what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson. If it was Watson, I would be much more on fire with drafting a guy like DJ Moore or Robbie Anderson. I feel like it really just did nothing for them. Either it's going to slightly help them or slightly hurt them, but I don't really think it's a traumatic difference from both of those guys. So now we are up on the board here after a bunch of running backs went and Devontae Adams. At the running back position, still available, we have Ezekiel Elliott, Nick Chubb, Austin Eckler, DeAndre Swift, Joe Mixon, Antonio Gibson. Now, I was kind of a little bit scared of Zeke coming into drafts early on in the offseason. I was kind of nervous because in my head, I wasn't 100% sold into the fact that it was going to be Ezekiel Elliott being like back to old Zeke, right? You remember 2-3 years ago, Zeke's on fire. Last year, he has a down year. Still finished pretty decently, though, and I feel like he's going to bounce back as long as Dakota Prescott is able to stay healthy. I'm going to buy back in on Zeke again. It's not the same offensive line that they had in the past, but at the 109, the risk is certainly worth it for one of the more talented running backs in the NFL in Ezekiel Elliott. If he wasn't there, I would have been very happy selecting a guy like Nick Chubb. Now, if he's not there. Chubb's not there. Zeke's not there. I'm not sure I'm willing to take my first round pick with Austin Eckler again, and I probably would have just faded and went with a tight end in Travis Kelce, because I feel like Travis Kelce has a very high chance of being the tight end one yet again and playing very well. But we're going to go with Zeke for this pick. After we went ahead and drafted Mr. Ezekiel Elliott at this pick, there's going to be two more, and then it's our pick yet again. After that, we see DeAndre Hopkins followed by Austin Eckler. So Travis Kelce is still available inside of the second round. I feel as though Travis Kelce is going to be a mortal lock of the century to be a first round pick. I think he goes somewhere around the 6 range here, maybe even 5 to like the 5 till the end of the draft. I genuinely do not see him falling all the way into the second round in many drafts, because the tight end position at the top is very good, but after that, it's kind of like a guess. You're taking a shot at a tight end, but if you want to be safe, you want to draft a guy that you know is going to ball out. As long as Mahomes doesn't get hurt, as long as Kelce is perfectly healthy, the guy is going to ball out week in and week out, and that gives you a huge advantage, especially in a 10-team league where the position means more, in my opinion, because when you're playing with 14 teams, right, if you have Travis Kelce, your running backs are going to be down tremendous. But in a 10-team league, in my opinion, it's much more worthy of a shot because the league is smaller and it's easier to get a better running back later. But here, with that said, I genuinely do not feel as though Travis Kelce will fall to the second round in any league, so I'm not going to take him here. I'm not going to take advantage, because then my team, I think, will look a little bit crazy. So we're going to go with Nick Chubb, Big Dick Nicholas Chubb of the Cleveland Browns. Did get injured last season, but did play quite well, and I feel as though he is going to continue to build upon having great seasons in back-to-back years. The Cleveland Browns love to run the fucking rock. It's their goddamn job. With Stefanski, they just want to run every single play. Now, they're not going to run every single play. Obviously, Baker's going to air it out a little bit, but I still think Chubb is definitely worthy of a first or second round pick in all leagues. After Big Dick Nicholas Chubb came off the board, Stephon Diggs, followed by Tyreek Hill, DK Metcalf, Calvin Ridley, Keenan Allen, Michael Thomas, Travis Kelce, Miles Sanders to close out the second round. Very interesting. Typically, we see the first 2 rounds of fantasy drafts loaded with the running backs. I'm talking more than half the picks are running backs. But here, we're seeing a decent amount of wide receivers come off inside of the second round. Typically, where I, in my opinion, will feel like I'm going to be seeing in a lot of fantasy football drafts is the wide receivers going off in the third round. People are going to be snagging 2 running backs a lot in these drafts, and then in the third round is when all hell breaks loose. Guys like Michael Thomas will probably end up going in the third round, and people are going to be picking them up just rapidly, and then in the 5th, 6th rounds when you'll see people hammering back in on the running back position. So very interesting here, because after Miles Sanders came out the board, the same guy drafts A.J. Brown, followed by George Kittle. So we see a Travis Kelce, George Kittle stack. Now, is this a completely stupid strategy? Not necessarily, because Kelce and Kittle can finish top 10 at the wide receiver position, but they play tight end. But what are the odds of that happening, right? Not very high. I understand drafting Kelce in the second round. At the 209, that's an absolute fucking steal. But following that up with George Kittle, to me, is a little bit crazy. If I draft Travis Kelce, I don't even want to draft a second tight end, because he is straight up set it and forget it. He's in your lineup every single week, except for on the bye week. Even in the bye week, he might have a chance to score more points than the random guy you pick up off of the waiver wire. Travis Kelce is simply just that good, so I would not advise going double tight end early on in the draft. I actually experimented with doing this in 2019, just went early tight ends with 2 of them, and the team looked real weird, and I'm very sure that this team's going to look weird as well. After Kittle comes Allen Robinson, Pat Mahomes, Justin, call me Miss Jackson. I don't even think those are the lyrics. I always say that. Someone in the comments like, that is not what they say at all. Shout out to Outcast. But after Justin Jefferson comes DeAndre Swift, Joe Mixon, Antonio Gibson. Now, what the absolute fuck is this disrespect to Justin Jefferson? I feel like he should be up here in this range, not down here. I just really think Jefferson has just the it factor. I know Kirk Cousins is not the greatest, but Justin Jefferson did really good despite that, so I'm still really high on him this season. And then we see the 3 running backs go off after that, so now it's our pick. We could obviously go with a 3 running back in a row strategy, but I feel pretty confident in a player that is sitting here at the wide receiver position, and that's Terry F1 Scary McLaurin. Almost said his name wrong right there, but it's a-okay, because with Fitzpatrick there in Washington, I am so confident that we are going to see a monster year from Terry McLaurin. Now, also not on your guys' screen because I'm covering it up, Darren Waller is also available. Now, I feel as though Waller also would not be available in this scenario. I genuinely think Kelsey's going in the first, Kittle and Waller are going to be in the middle of the second round to the beginning of the third round. I don't think they make it this far, so it's kind of me having to overpower my brain because I want to take Waller. Waller's a fucking menace. I honestly would not be surprised if people by come August in draft season are ranking Darren Waller ahead of a guy like George Kittle, but I am going to stick with my guns and go with F1 scary Terry McLaurin of the Washington football team. Like I said, with Fitzpatrick, this is going to be a gun-slinging offense, and Terry McLaurin played very good last season, even without a very good quarterback under center. It was a quarterback catastrophe, as they would say, in Washington, and that's not even an understatement or an overstatement, I would say, because Dwayne Haskins was drafted there. The guy fucking sucks. Alex Smith, not the greatest. Taylor Heineke, who the fuck is that guy? Played really well, though. But at the end of the day, with Fitzpatrick, I feel very confident. So after we went with Terry McLaurin comes Cam Akers, followed by Darren Waller. So we're back up on the board. That would be the running back I wanted the most, though, in Cam Akers. Cam Akers is such a highly talented running back. I am so sold in on this whole LA Rams offense. I'm feeling like they are going to score a zillion points in 2021, even with their supreme defense. So I'm very sold in on Cam Akers, but there's another player that I like a whole ton inside of the fourth round, and that's James Robinson. Now, I understand, oh, Nick, you already have 2 running backs. You don't need another one. I can start Mr. James Robinson, who I'm going to pick in my flex. Now, I understand there's also some surrounding noise with James Robinson, but I'm a huge fan of James Robinson out of, not out of college because I had no idea who he was, but out of last season because James Robinson was so talented. The guy was an undrafted rookie, goes in there and balls out. Now, I understand Carlos Hyde is there, and he is going to take a little bit of carries from him, but I still think James Robinson is going to be very strong in 2021, and I genuinely believe there's like a only 1% chance that they end up drafting another running back to this team because, again, you don't really have to pay James Robinson anything. He's an undrafted running back. It makes too much sense to just feed this guy the rock every single year for the next couple of years. I love James Robinson in 2021. Again, I am very much sold in on James Robinson and his talent last year, especially the fact that he was pretty decent in the pass-catching game as well, which is something you very much look for in PPR and half PPR leagues. Will that stop me from drafting a guy like Derrick Henry? No. But it definitely helps when you're drafting running backs later in the draft. After we went ahead and drafted James Robinson came Julio Jones, followed by Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Amari Cooper, J.K. Dobbins, Chris Carson, Josh Jacobs, Chris Godwin, CeeDee Lamb, DJ Moore, Robert Woods, Mike Evans, Adam Thielen, Brandon Ayuk, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, and Cooper Kupp. So 3 quarterbacks have came off the board already. Am I a fan of drafting quarterback early? If you've watched my videos, the answer is no. But am I a fan of drafting them in the 5th round? No, but again, I understand it. I wouldn't be drafting Pat Mahomes that high because I just feel like with Mahomes, I think he is the safest quarterback. But again, what's the point in drafting Mahomes when Kyler could be the number 1 quarterback and you're getting him at a 2-round discount? Josh Allen could be the number 1 quarterback, you're getting him at a 2-round discount. And you look at all these quarterbacks, all of these guys like Lamar, Dak, Deshaun, Herbert, Wilson, I could all see being the number 1 quarterback. I can just see that happening, so I don't really understand why you would draft Pat Mahomes that early when a lot of these guys have upside to be the number 1 quarterback. I mean, Hurts, while I don't love him, I'm not sold in on the talent. Not sold in really on the talent, but I'm not sold around the talent around him. Matthew Stafford, I mean, while he doesn't run, he could also be the number 1 quarterback. Tom Brady, any of these guys. So I don't genuinely feel like it's worth it to draft a quarterback this early. So we are back up on the board. We got 3 running backs and a wide receiver thus far. I do like David Montgomery, but again, not necessarily at this pick. So I'll happily go for a wide receiver at this pick. Kenny Bones, I really liked in Detroit, even with the fact that the offense was kind of limp dick with Matthew Stafford. I was very confident in Kenny Golladay, but now in New York with Danny Dimes, I'm not super sold in on that at all. Again, if you guys have ended up enjoying this video this far, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. And it's not really even, it really is just Daniel Jones, right? That's kind of why I'm worried about it now. Am I worried about taking a risk on Golladay? If he's like my wide receiver 3, no. But as my wide receiver 2, to me, it is definitely a risk and probably one of the worst case scenarios that he ended up going to the New York Football Giants. For the Giants, the football team, obviously, it fits very well. But for fantasy football purposes, it does not fit like a glove. Shout out to O.J. Simpson. So here at this pick, I would be thinking about it because he's very safe, but I am about hunting that upside in Deontay Johnson. But Nick, Juju Smith-Schuster's back. I'm not scared about Juju Smith-Schuster, frankly, at all. I think that Juju, his time came and it went. He's still a solid NFL wide receiver, but Deontay Johnson, what I saw out of Deontay Johnson last season, this guy had 144 fucking targets. If he somehow learned how to catch the ball in the offseason, which I believe he will do, he will be dangerous like Russell Wilson in 2021. I very heavily believe Deontay Johnson is going to be dicking down some defenses like his name was Johnny Sin. So Deontay Johnson is joining my roster at the 509. After that, we see Kenny Golladay and Titty Boy T. Higgins. T. Higgins is also a player that I'm very fond of in 2021, but the NFL draft could hit this guy with the 619 Rey Mysterio, because what if they draft Ja'Marr Chase? To me, as someone who thinks they know what they're talking about the NFL draft, there should be a 0% chance they do it. But it's never zero, right? It never is zero. Teams do dumb shit during the draft every single year. You got to protect Joe Burrow, so you draft Penny Sewell. But Ja'Marr Chase played with Joe Burrow in college. There's that narrative. There's a lot of narratives you can paint on this. I like Ja'Marr Chase, but if you're the Bengals and you just saw Joe Burrow get destroyed, you draft an offensive tackle. You just do. So if they end up drafting Ja'Marr Chase, I am running away from T. Higgins as well as Tyler Boyd. I think both of those guys can be very successful this season if given the correct opportunity via Ja'Marr Chase not getting drafted there. Now, Tyler Lockett is an interesting pick in best ball leagues. I love him in best ball because this guy is either on one or completely and utterly cold. I've shown this off in a lot of mock drafts because he's a player that carries significant name kind of recognition, at least in my opinion, based upon what I know about fantasy football. A lot of people love Tyler Lockett. He is a pretty big name. See, the first three weeks, wide receiver 20 in PPR, 11, 1, right? 11, then 1. Very good. Then he's wide receiver 76, 50. Bye week, wide receiver 1, then 53, 62. You get it, right? He's so inconsistent. Just so inconsistent. And the problem is he's not even inconsistent like, oh, sometimes he gets like 13 points. Other times he's getting like 25. No. It's like sometimes this motherfucker gets you 5 points. Other times he gets you 37. It's such a weird range of numbers to the point where I don't want to trust Tyler Lockett because I don't even think when you draft him, you can even do the mental gymnastics into figuring out when to start him. It's just random. He will do good against an amazing defense. Then the next week against a bad defense, the guy will shit the bed. So I'm not drafting him. I don't want Juju either. I don't want Odell. I'm drafting Tyler Boyd. I just talked about it. I understand that if, look, with Joe Burrow, this guy's fucking lighting it up. Wide receiver 62 week 1, then 9, 10, 20, 52, 28, 4, 15. Very good start with Joe Burrow. So I'm very confident that Tyler Boyd will be able to get it done in 2021. Again, under the guise that they don't end up drafting wide receiver Ja'Marr Chase out of LSU. So after we went ahead and drafted Tyler Boyd, a bunch of picks are going to go off the board that we can't possibly read this fast. So we're going to have to go onto the draft board. Again, guys, if you have ended up enjoying thus far and you already subscribed, please make sure to hit the like button down below. It helps me out a ton. So after I went with Tyler, yeah, Boyd, Hollywood, oh no, I almost just said Hollywood Andrews. That's Hollywood Brown of the Baltimore Ravens. Did not get drafted yet though, but Marky Mock Andrews got drafted, followed by OBJ, David Montgomery, TJ Hawkinson, Tyler Lockett, Dakota Prescott, Myles Gaskin, Lamar Jackson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Aaron Rodgers, Brandon Cooks, Cortland Sutton, Justin Herbert, Robbie Anderson, Will Fuller, Russell Wilson. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Would you rather prefer, let's just take these teams as they were drafted. I understand I would not draft like either of these teams, really, but which team do you guys prefer? You guys prefer the team that went with Mahomes. So they have Saquon, Keenan Allen, Pat Mahomes, Chris Carson, Adam Thielen, Tyler Lockett, Cortland Sutton, or do you prefer the team that waited and drafted a quarterback much later right here? Derrick Henry, Calvin Ridley, Justin Jefferson, J.K. Dobbins, Brandon Ayuk, Hawkinson, and Herbert. I'm probably leaning more on this train right here of Henry, Dobbins, Ridley, Jefferson, Ayuk, Hawkinson, and Herbert. I frankly just think that's a better team. Now, again, there's no real bias in it. There's no bias. I'm just thinking that I want to draft a quarterback much later, which is why I've yet to draft one. Me and Pick 10 are the only teams without a quarterback through 7 rounds. Typically, I'm looking at around round 9 to get a quarterback. But again, it's all about your league, because if a bunch of quarterbacks have been taken and guys start taking their second quarterback, you have to... Now, I never say to panic, but that's when you panic, you shit yourself, and you have to draft a quarterback, because you don't want to get skull-fucked into drafting like quarterback 20 off the board to be your guy, and then you're in a league where there's people drafting 2 quarterbacks, so you need a backup quarterback, and then your backup quarterback's Gardner Minshew or something, so you don't want that to happen. So we are back up on the board at this pick, and I feel very confident in Kareem Hunt, but I already have Nick Chubb. Now I understand, oh, Nick, you can handcuff him, but to me, a 7th round pick is not a handcuff. A handcuff is when I can get Kareem Hunt much later in the draft. I understand you can play them both on a weekly basis. Do I really want to do that? No, so I'm going to go ahead here and get a little bit spicy and draft Melvin Gordon. Now, last season, if you guys were watching my channel, I was the biggest Melvin Gordon hater because Phillip Lindsay was going to fuck his day up. But then Phillip Lindsay gets hurt. Melvin Gordon has an excellent season. I understand it was a bit up and down, but without Phillip Lindsay, this guy was really playing quite well. And I think right here, it just says ceiling is limitless. The ceiling is the fucking moon. I think Melvin Gordon is going to play very well in 2021. We saw him do it in LA, even with Eckler there. But again, I genuinely feel like it's going to be a great season for Mr. Melvin Gordon in Denver with a quarterback that we do not know who it is yet. And that was the 69th pick of the draft. And as Borat would say, very nice. I like my wife. Yeah. I love doing the Borat accent. I don't think it's any good, but it's always funny. So now we're on the board here. I kind of want to snag Kareem Hunt, but I also feel like the value is kind of dissipating at the wide receiver position because there's a guy I like a whole lot here at this pick. I am kind of a fan of DJ Chark, but I'm also thinking there is a possibility that the Jacksonville Jaguars end up drafting a wide receiver at the back half of the first round with their second pick. They can draft, obviously, Lawrence with the first pick, which they will do. That's pretty much a mortal lock of the century. Bet the fucking house, but I mean, the odds are so terrible that you shouldn't. But Deebo will be the pick for me because I do slightly worry about that. I think Deebo, coming off the injury, he was very talented, very good in 2019, very good in 2020 when healthy. Again, I understand he's an injury-prone player, but he's not a starter on my team. He's a bench player, and he does have significant upside. I also like Chase Claypool, but I'm not necessarily trying to snag 2 wide receivers on a team with a quarterback that I'm slightly worried about. Just slightly with Mr. Big Ben Roethlisberger. So we're going to snag, not Chase Claypool here, we're going to snag Mr. Deebo Samuel, wide receiver of the San Francisco 49ers. I understand his stats weren't all that good last year, but again, that is because he was injured, and I genuinely believe I've probably said this like 50 times, right? In this video, the future's bright, the horizon's bright, right? Yeah. Said it like 50 times, but it is what it is. After we went ahead and drafted Deebo Samuel, Kareem Hunt came off the board, followed by Wiki, DJ Chark, Curtis Samuel, David Johnson, Jarvis Landry, Ronald Jones, Chase Claypool, Jerry Jeudy, Michael Gallup, Raheem Mostert, Devontae Parker, Mike Davis, Leonard Fournette, Najee Harris, Hollywood Brown, and Gus Bus Edwards. Now, Najee Harris, Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne should be top 2-day picks. Seems like Harris will be a first-round pick. Wouldn't surprise me if he fell past it. Last year, I thought Jonathan Taylor was a first-round pick. Didn't get picked in the first round. But, so Harris will be drafted in fantasy leagues, in my opinion, somewhere in this range, round 2 to 4. We haven't really seen any running backs that got drafted highly be a first-round pick, except for like Zeke and Saquon back in the day. But we haven't seen that recently in redraft leagues, so I doubt that's going to happen. But I think Harris in the perfect landing spot, maybe like Miami, he's a second, third-round pick. Etienne, potentially same thing. Same thing with Javonte Williams. Again, pending landing spots. If you guys want to learn about the draft, I do mock drafts on my channel every single week for fantasy football as well as for the NFL draft. I give my take as things are moving because things are moving fucking rapidly with Sam Darnold getting traded. Sam Darnold, is he a guy I want to draft in fantasy? Is actually a question that I have not really answered in this video. The answer is no, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was pretty good. Because I genuinely believe that being on the New York Jets completely handcuffed him. And it's not even the Jets' name. It probably is. But it's more of the coaching. Adam Gase is such a fucking idiot that I'm surprised this guy can tie his shoes in the morning. I'm surprised the guy knows how to drive into work. I genuinely am. So I think Darnold could be okay, but he's not a guy I'm looking for in fantasy football. So next up, we are on the board here. We have 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. 4 running backs. 1, 2, 3, 4 wide receivers. That's fake. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, we got a 4 for 4, like it's at Wendy's. 4 running backs, 4 wide receivers. So we gotta dive into the running backs again. Now, Kenyon Drake may actually be a very interesting pick in the 9th round, and we will see it in preseason. There's only 3 preseason games this year, but we will see it. Is Kenyon Drake legitimately a slot wide receiver? That's what they're saying they're going to use him as. If Kenyon Drake is playing slot on the Raiders and he's getting touches, I'm drafting him. Plain and fucking simple. I'm drafting him. If he's looking good out there, I'm going to draft him. It's the 9th round. Last year I was higher than Kenyon Drake. I was higher than Elon Musk, and the guy fucking sucked cock, okay? I'm not going to be someone who's like, oh, dude, that was stupid. Like, I understand that was stupid. Kenyon Drake fucking sucked last year. He was given the opportunity, sucked. But it's new horizon, said it again, for the Las Vegas Raider, Kenyon Drake. So I think there is a possibility here. Again, it's like a handcuff, but I think if he's actually running out of the slot, he could be very dangerous. That girl is so dangerous. Kenyon Drake. So after that, we see James Conner, followed by Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is probably going to skyrocket up the board once he gets drafted to a team, whether that's the Dolphins, maybe the Bengals again. You never know. So we are back up on the board here, and I think we are going to... Now, this is very interesting because Deshaun Watson, if his name was cleared, again, I'm not saying he did it. I'm not saying he didn't do it. I have no idea. I'm still leaning more towards the fact that he did do it, but I'm not going to make a clean, hard fucking stance slapping this guy down because there's a possibility that he didn't do it. Again, I fucking don't know. Okay? Deshaun Watson, he is getting picked up there with these other running backs, or other quarterbacks, I should say. If this doesn't happen, if he's fine and he's the Houston Texans quarterback, he's getting picked up here. If he gets traded to the Broncos or something, he's getting picked up here. He's not going to be a 10th round pick unless we're sitting there in August and we still have no idea what's going to happen. He probably won't even end up playing if that scenario this season. So we are up. So here, if I would definitely draft Deshaun if we knew what was happening, but he won't be here if he's fine. So again, not going to be drafting him. Tight ends, I'm just going to wait at this point. And we're going to dive back in on either running back or wide receiver here. Damian Harris is a very interesting pick at this point in the draft, strictly because we don't know what New England's going to end up doing. If they draft a running back early, then Damian Harris gets kicked to the curb. But Harris really exploded last year. 10 games, 137 rushes, 691 rushing yards, 5 receptions, 52 receiving yards, and only 2 touchdowns. You have to think the touchdowns go up if the carries go up and if he's able to stay healthy. So Damian Harris is a very interesting pick here in the 10th round, where I was getting him last year, and I was relatively happy with how he produced based on where I drafted him last season as a very high upside play on the New England Deflatriots. So we are back up on the board, as they would say, and we're going to draft a wide receiver here and a guy that I'm willing to take a deep shot from 3, fucking Stephen Curry range. That's Michael Pittman. I'm not 100% sold in that Carson Wentz is Carson Wentz from a bunch of years ago when he was looking like he was going to win the MVP and he gets hurt. Not sold in on that. But what I am sold in on is the fact that I think he's better than Rivers was last year. Shout out to Rivers and his 12 kids. That guy fucks. Michael Pittman, alpha male, doesn't give up his number. Makes Carson Wentz change his number, which is fucking hilarious. Pittman is the number 1 guy on this team, and I think he plays very well in 2021. So I am bought in on Michael Pittman. Again, unless they draft someone early on in the draft, there's a 77% chance that Michael Pittman would have been available the next 2 rounds from now. Fuck off, all right? I do what I want. Shout out to Little Uzi. So now we need a tight end and a quarterback. No one drafted a quarterback or a backup. No one drafted a backup quarterback in this draft besides this guy. That's going to happen. So again, remember that could happen. Then you got to go ahead and pick a quarterback. Now, I'm not going to pick Deshaun Watson off of principle. So we're going to go ahead here and draft Ryan Tannehill of the Tennessee Titans. This guy is just ultra consistent in Tennessee. In Miami, he was one of my favorite players. I love Ryan Tannehill. In Tennessee, he's still one of my favorite players because Adam Gase did him wrong like Sam Darnold got done wrong. So, again, maybe we're seeing an explosive season like the diarrhea you get after you eat Taco Bell. Shout out to Taco Bell, though. Love that food. So, next up, we are back on the board, and we got to go ahead and draft a tight end at this pick. I'm not a big draft 2 tight ends kind of guy. Some people are. I'm not. Now, I love Hurst. I am very worried right now. Very worried. Fucking DEFCON 7. Fucking, I think that's the worst. DEFCON 5 maybe is the worst. We're at maximum shit your pants type of deal. Brown horn type of deal. Because I'm so nervous. So nervous about Hayden Hurst getting fucked by Kyle Pitts. I'm genuinely thinking Kyle Pitts might get picked to the Falcons, and that is starting to worry me a lot. It is. But I'm still going to draft him. I liked him last year. He was okay. Wasn't what I expected, but he was still okay. And I think he takes a second leap in this offense in his second year on the Atlanta Falcons. Now we need a kicker and a defense. Now, how I kind of do this is I draft a defense based upon who they're playing in week 1, and I cycle them in and out every single week. I make a video every single week on my channel being like, defenses to stream. I give 5 defenses, and if those defenses are picked up in your league, you can just ask in the comments. I love to answer the comments. I always talk to people in the comments. Oh, these teams are not available. Then bam, I fire you like 5 other defenses because, frankly, I don't make the video to be 30 minutes long. I could talk about fucking every defense and rank them, but frankly, that's kind of boring. That's why I only do 5, but there will be a video before the season starts. Defenses I am targeting in my drafts. And it will be defenses with easy opponents week 1 or opponents that I believe will turn the ball over, things like that to get my defense points. Right now we're going with the Rams. Don't know what the schedule is just yet. When that releases, we'll have a much better idea. But talking about the schedule, again, going back to Mono Man Sam, revenge game up against the Jets this year. Should be Zach Wilson versus Mono Man Sam. Let's see who gets her done in that game. Very interesting. So now we're going to go with a kicker. Again, right now I have no idea what to talk about when it comes to kickers, but Tyler Bass, why is he ranked so low? Tyler Bass is a fucking beast. I'm drafting him here out of the Buffalo Bills because no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. So, to recap our draft real quick, our quarterback is Ryan Tannehill. Our running backs are Big Dick Nick Chubb and Ezekiel Elliott. Our wideouts are Terry McLaurin and Deontay Johnson. Tight end Hayden Hurst. Our flex is James Robinson. Our defense and kicker are the Los Angeles Rams and Tyler Bass. Our bench is comprised of Tyler, Boyd, Melvin Gordon, Deebo Samuel, Kenyon Drake, Damian Harris, and Michael Pittman. Some picks that I didn't really discuss down here that are kind of interesting. Mike Davis. I think they end up drafting a running back, which sucks for Davis. Who should have been and could have been a lead back in Atlanta, played really well in Carolina when CMC was hurt. Javonte Williams, ETN again, going to be very highly drafted, not down here. Another interesting picks are Janu and Hunter Henry. Those are 2 guys that I am hitting with the Michael Jordan fade away. I ain't drafting those guys at all because I don't believe in Cam. Really? I genuinely don't. And I also just don't believe in the fact that 2 tight ends in New England, there's so many weapons there now, but they're not like fucking weapons of mass destruction. They're no nuke. They're like a fucking Nerf pistol of weapons they've got over there. So I'm kind of not loving that too much. I like Janu. I liked Henry when they're on 2 different teams, but now, no bueno. Irv Smith, I really like, though, got drafted much later. Handcuff that I love down here is Darrell Henderson. He is a huge target of mine because if something was to happen to Akers, I genuinely believe Darrell Henderson has the skill set to be great in the NFL. Marlon Mack, the same thing as well. We've seen Marlon Mack, I believe, get over 1,000 yards before in his NFL career. Let's see it right there. 2019, 1,091 rushing yards. He's good. He's good. I understand he's the backup, but he's good. And if something was to happen, he has a great chance to be very good. James White, very sad he signed back in New England. I thought he was going to Tampa Bay to be with Tampa Bay Tom Brady. So thank you guys all so much for watching. Again, if you did end up enjoying, please make sure to abuse that fucking subscribe button down below. Smack it a bunch of times. Make sure, though, at the end of it, it says that you're subscribed. I love you guys all. Have a great rest of your guys' day. Happy Tuesday. Tomorrow is Hump Day. I love you guys all again. Thank you guys for everything. We're on our way to 12,000 subscribers this year. Again, I've made this very clear multiple times. We're going to 25,000 this summer. Blast off like an astronaut. I love you guys all. Thank you guys for everything again. Have a great rest of your guys' day. Stay safe. Goodbye.